Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Wealth Defense Radio, the podcast. I am your host, Josh Nahosa, and I am an independent advisor representative for Swan DFW. Swan DFW is the company that puts on this podcast, and that stands for Sleep Well at Night, Dallas, Fort Worth. And I am here with the man who founded Swan DFW about 10 years ago, and his name is Hector and Josh.
Good morning, or afternoon, or evening.
Yeah.
Hello.
Whenever it is you're listening.
Yeah.
Hector is a certified financial planner, which is the top mark in our industry, and
That's right.
he is the one who created Swan DFW.
That's right. What are we talking about today?
Today is all about college.
I like
college planning,
that's
funding college, how to pick college, all things college, basically.
Yeah, and it's going to come from a financial perspective, but I think, and so it's different than you probably have heard from college counselors and stuff like that. And so hopefully you'll stay tuned and maybe we'll make a little sense for you.
Yeah, for sure. Hector, at some point, was in college, I'm pretty sure.
Long time ago, we used to ride our horses and to college back then.
Yeah, uphill, both ways, in the snow.
In the snow.
Of Brownsville, Texas.
Brownsville, Texas. Very good. You've heard that story once.
So many times. And then I went to college, graduated right as COVID happened, so shout out me on the great timing of that. But yeah, so just a different perspective maybe on college and college picking.
And that's one of the kind of the major things that a family has to kind of plan for and do. And you got to do it in such a way where you can get your child or children through college and still be able to retire because you're right at that age. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about stuff in a way that maybe you haven't heard before. So,
yeah. Before we do that, though, Apple had some interesting news come out.
yeah, it's kind of funny. Apple is down $6 today. That's like 3% or something. And you go, what could be going wrong?
Today, the day that we're recording.
The day we're recording, which happens to be
the 16th.
The 16th of September. And the reason that is they're saying the new iPhone 16 is not going to get as many orders, although I think that with the new AI that's in the new phones, that's not in the old phones, that's not I think they're misjudging. But Apple is more than just a telephone company. And we were just now, a breaking news deal is that Apple has received FDA approval for sleep apnea detection on their smartwatches. So the new smartwatches will be able to detect sleep apnea. That's as we get older, especially, but maybe for everybody, that's a really important thing to know about your sleeping habits. And in the past, you would have to go to a sleep
study
and spend the night and get all wired up, and it was expensive, and your insurance had to cover it. And now the smartwatch is going to be able to do that. And I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But wait, there's more. Last week, their new AirPods will be able to perform clinical grade hearing tests. That's a good thing.
Yep.
And act as hearing aids.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're wearing them, you can turn them up and you'll be able to hear your preacher preach, your teacher teach, your wife tell you that the supper's ready or something. So amazing thing in that is why Apple is one of our kind of main companies that we really, really like, because they just keep innovating. And once you become part of the Apple family, you're going to be part of the Apple family for a long time.
Yeah, there's a whole Apple ecosystem.
That's right.
Once you have the iPhone, you got to have the iPad, and then AirPods, and a watch, and a Mac.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah. So yeah, it's and even if somebody comes up with a really cool phone, for you to change everything doesn't make a lot of sense. So you know that Apple will come back and do something like that down the road. So anyway, I just thought that was really good news, more than just investment news, really good news in us being able to be healthier. So that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. Back to the topic of the day, which is college. So, in like just a few sentences, what's like the overarching theme that we're taking from this?
We want our students to graduate from college. Okay. We want them to graduate with a degree that's employable, that will make money, because at the end of the day, isn't that what it's supposed to do?
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we do that and have them, if we have to take loans, make it manageable, and we'll talk about that later, and do it in such a way where we as parents are still going to be able to retire. So that's the whole thing. Is we're going to talk about college in a financial planning overview.
Yeah. More than just like go where feels great or where you've always maybe dreamed of going. Like more as like a business decision versus
An emotional decision. Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of our students, a lot of the people we talk to are that are my age or close to my age, in their 50s and 60s, still have a lot of student debt. And so we're talking about people in their 50s and 60s that are carrying a lot of debt because they made a poor decision 25 years ago that they're still messing with. And so one of the things that I learned very quickly, and there's a lot of horror stories that we've had to work through, is that we need to have our students today at least be talked to in a way where they know what the decisions and the impact of the stuff they do today, how that's going to impact them going forward. And relieve the guilt of parents of saying, oh, if you want to go to that school, we will do that for you. And knowing that that's going to be a big financial strain on the family now, their retirement later, and the debt load for the student later. So we just want good, smart financial decisions. I'm not against going to college. I've heard people, after we've done some seminars, say, you're really hard on college. I'm not. It just needs to be looked at as a business decision.
Yeah.
Like the way you said that. That's exactly right.
So let's get into it.
Okay.
One of our big rules of thumb is that you don't want to take on more debt than your first year's salary for the major that you're going to. So obviously that's going to change. If you want to be a teacher, you're looking at $40,000, $50,000 a year, give or take. If you're a brain surgeon, you're looking at more. So you want to kind of scale that to the job you want. You don't want to be a school teacher that makes $50,000, $60,000 a year that is $250,000 in debt at the end of college.
A great college experience will never get out of debt. And that horror story for me came from a young lady that works as she counsels women that are in violent relationships and helps them kind of restart their career. When she went to college, she graduated with about $40,000 in debt, and that would have been great. But then she went to get her master's. In her master's, she took on another $40,000 in debt. And getting a master's for her job increased her pay from like $45,000 to $46,000. So it wasn't a good financial trade-off if she'd have looked at it that way. But my biggest concern was when I was asking her, I said, people were seeing you, your financial aid people, your counselors were seeing you take on this debt and knew what you wanted to do. Did anybody ever tell you this may not be a good financial decision? And she said, no. As a matter of fact, they kept encouraging me to take on more debt. And that and a lot of other stories have got me where I want to make sure that we talk about this thing in a way where it's more of a business decision. And doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to do what you want to do, go to school you want. Just know what you're getting into. Don't walk in blindly.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good example of, you want to know how much money you're going to make if you get a job in your major. So that would be, we talked about teachers is like 40, 50, 60,000. maybe if you're a marketing person, that's 70, 80, 90,000, depending. If you're a doctor, it's maybe more than that. But you kind of want to know where you're going financially so that you can make an informed decision for future you.
Right. And I had another friend that we've known for a long time, and I want to ask him where their son was going to a very expensive school on the West Coast, and his major was lost languages. Now, I just don't know how many jobs there are. But they weren't clients and they didn't ask me. And so, but I was thinking, that's one of those where I wish we could talk to them and say, okay, we love it. Can we do that maybe as a minor but let's do something that you can make a little money at when you get out. But yeah, that's been what's kind of turned my passion when we talk about this topic.
Yeah. Let's talk about what if you don't have a clear picture of what you want to do in college or beyond college as a career. It's becoming more and more common. I work with a lot of high schoolers, and I would say even from like last year compared to 5 years ago, it's more and more common that kids just don't know what they want to do. Mm-hmm. So what would be your advice to that group?
Yeah. So if I'm sitting with a family and they say, we have a really good student, just doesn't know what to do. Let me start by saying, before you and your brother went to college, I got to speak at a college called Pepperdine, very expensive, but in our church, and a good friend of mine works there, and he said, your kids need to come here. And to go to Pepperdine for 4 years is $250,000 for one student. Mm-hmm. I had two. That's $500,000. And so I asked him, so for $500,000, what do I get? What kind of guarantees? And he said, well, there's no guarantees, but the networking and the people that they'll meet and the stuff, just being amazing. He'll be a full-fledged, or somebody that can start participating and giving back to the community. And I said, okay, one, that's $500,000 is a lot of money, but two, you were going to a junior college here. You were doing a homeschool, mm-hmm. and your math teacher was a PhD, and he was teaching your class. And I told him that. I said, so my oldest son is at a junior college right now in a math class being taught by a PhD. And he said, we have PhDs. We have a lot of them. I said, yeah, I know, but when you're teaching here, you're not going to teach the class. You're doing the research. It's your teachers or professors' assistants or teachers' assistants that are actually going to teach the class. So now I'm paying a whole bunch of money and not getting that kind of education from a PhD. So if a student isn't ready, doesn't really know, is between 2 or 3 majors, and even if they know what their major is, we just did a little research that said that the National Center for Education says that 80% of people will change their majors at least once, and on average, like 3 times. And so the one thing that doesn't change is your core, is what we used to call our basics. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with taking your basics and paying a lot less money than going off to college and not being sure what your major is and taking on a whole lot more debt. So what I would say is, if you've decided on a school and you're pretty sure what your major is, make sure, if you're going to go to junior college, that the classes you're taking will transfer. Because that's the other thing, is you want to think ahead, you want to plan a little bit ahead. But if the whole thing comes out where you can't go to that school, maybe there is a way. Maybe if you do a year or two in junior college, you can still graduate from that school that you want to go to, and graduate with manageable amount of debt that's not gonna suffocate you going into adulthood.
Yeah. So let's talk about
debt.
Okay.
because here's what happens. Well, there's what used to happen. You guys have really turned everything upside down. You go to school, you graduate with $150,000 in college debt, but while you're there, you meet her or you meet him who is graduating from the same school with about the same amount of college debt. So now two people get married, and let's say that together they have $150,000 in college debt. Once you get married, your parents are going to start wanting you to not stop paying rent. So the second thing you're going to do is they're going to encourage you to take on more debt by buying a house. That's a good thing. But now a house, even in a starter home, is $350,000. But you can't just buy a house. You got to buy furniture, so there's another $10,000 or $15,000, and you can't drive an old car in a brand new neighborhood. So now you got to buy a car. So before you blink an eye, you have a young couple, 2 college degrees, and they could be $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in debt. That is a huge mountain to climb. So coming out with little or no college debt is a good goal, not only for the student, but for the adult that's gonna have to live with these decisions the rest of their life.
So now, let's talk about that school.
Okay.
A lot of students have like a dream school.
Yes.
that they've
Harvard
been-
was my dream school.
Yeah, well, you were not Harvard's dream student. So
That's exactly what they said.
there was no worry about that one.
Yeah.
But a lot of students do have like a dream school they've been dreaming about. We kind of advise maybe have 3 or 4 options. Like still have your dream school, but have 3 or 4 maybe that you're okay with going to. Don't just box yourself into one.
That's exactly right. And you want to do that because if you are a really good student, especially a state school, not so much, but a private school, they have enough money if they really want your student. They can put a package together that can be affordable. So and it's kind of like buying a car. You want to get 3 or 4 schools that are in the major that your student wants, and you want to play them off each other. And you want to make sure your student is somebody that everybody wants. Because remember, at the end of the day, a college degree from a great school, any degree, is a ticket to a really nice first job. But after your first job, the advancements on that for your career aren't based on your college. They're based on what you did on that first job.
Yeah.
So
We've talked about reasons to maybe pick a college for the major financially. To close here, run through some reasons maybe not to pick a college.
those are easier.
Yeah, so the first, there's a lot of them in no particular order.
Yeah.
Probably don't pick it just based on the sports team.
Yeah. Great football team. Not a good idea.
Shout out like Florida State, any incoming freshman was like, this is going to be awesome. And as we're recording this, they're 0-3.
Yeah. To one of the top 5 schools last year in football. Yeah. So no, don't do that.
Don't do that. Obviously, that's if you're not an athlete. If you're an athlete
If
that's
they're gonna
trying
give you
to
a full
play, yeah.
Go there. Wherever there is.
Yeah. The next one here is going to be don't follow like a significant other.
Yeah. Because he's going there or she's going there. Not a good idea. Because I don't know what the stats are. 80% here changed their degree. I have a feeling incoming freshmen, pretty high degree, changed their significant others through college.
I would probably agree with that.
Yeah.
What other reasons not to?
I love their colors. I look really good in maroon.
Yeah.
Not a good reason. And so there's, and we could keep going, but yeah, don't do that. And hopefully, having said all that, I know we're running a little long, but I have a doctor, and his wife's a dentist. They had just had a baby, or they just found out they were going to have a baby, and so they said, we're going to start a 529 plan. That's a college plan thing. We've been talking, and that's not what this podcast is about, but there are ways to aim for it. And I said, well, okay, so we need to decide what school they're going to. So that's simple. They're going to A&M. I said, well, how do you know? Because I know. Because my father went there. I went there. They're going to go there. I said, well, what if they don't want to go there? They're going to want to go there. Oh, okay. And you know what? Both kiddos, A&M.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So lastly, you mentioned it earlier, but I want to stress that what if we finally get we find a college and we do all the planning, and the student is still going to take on some debt, what's the maximum amount of debt that we can take on? We suggest no more than one time, not 1%, one time, whatever that first year entry level job is in that degree.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's not a bad idea to take on debt, just manage it and be careful with it. Okay.
Yeah, just do a little research about what it is you want to do or the career you're maybe thinking of. Know that it likely will change as you go, but go in with some kind of idea.
That's right. And don't be afraid to get somebody like me involved, because sometimes it's easier for me to talk to a student and say, man, you're getting ready to make a $200,000 or $300,000 decision. Let's look at this as a financial decision and not as an emotional decision, because it's a big expense, and we just got to be smart about it.
Yeah. So if you have any questions or comments, or would like to talk to us about anything that you've heard, either you or your student, or if you're a student listening to this, really anybody that's listening to this, here's a couple of different ways
Grandparents.
that you can get a hold of us. The first way is a phone number, and that's 888-792-6339. That's 888-SWAN-DFW for those of you stuck in the 90s. Or we have an email address, and that is info@swandfw.net. That's info, like short for information, at swan, like the bird, dfw.net.
Yeah. Hope this was helpful. And thanks for listening.
Yep, we'll catch you all in the next one.
The preceding content is informational only and based on information available when created. It is not an offer or solicitation, nor is it tax or legal advice. It does not consider your financial circumstances and objectives and may not be suitable for you.